I lift my eyes up to the hills. From where will my help come? My help comes from the Lord, who made heaven and earth.
He will not let your foot be moved. He who keeps you will not slumber. He who keeps Israel will neither slumber nor sleep.
The Lord is your keeper. The Lord is your shade at your right hand. The sun shall not strike you by day, nor the moon by night.
The Lord will keep you from all evil. He will keep your life. The Lord will keep your going out and your coming in, from this time on and forevermore.
I am Judah, son of Joash. I, with my wife Sarah, have been invited here this morning to share with you what it was like to take a pilgrimage to Jerusalem long ago, and to share with you what Psalm 121 meant to us on these journeys.
My name is Sarah, daughter of Benjamin. The Lord Yahweh, through our great teacher Moses, long ago commanded that every Jewish male make at least one journey during his life to Jerusalem to celebrate the festivals of unleavened bread, weeks, or booths. But often his whole family would travel with him.
Of course, many of us made more than one pilgrimage because this was such a meaningful journey.
To see old friends and family again.
To see the streets of the holy city Jerusalem teeming with pilgrims.
And best of all, to worship the Lord on his holy hill, Mount Zion. These were the most sacred and memorable times of our lives.
I've heard you singing this morning. We sang as we made the journey to and from Jerusalem in Psalms 120 through 134. You will find many of the songs we sang. They are pilgrim songs, and Psalm 121 was one of the most beautiful. It was my personal favorite. Let us tell you why.
Taking a journey in our time was very dangerous. I have learned enough already about your time to know that things haven't changed all that much. Every year, we heard stories about fellow pilgrims being hurt, and some even losing their lives.
We all love Psalm 121 because it sings about how God is with us on this journey to protect and provide for us. We would sing it before we left to go to Jerusalem. We would sing it as we left Jerusalem to head back home. And we would sing it many times during the journey, for it got scary sometimes. We needed to be constantly reminded that God was with us. Without this assurance, we may not have had the courage to even go.
We would begin the song, I lift up my eyes to the hills. From where does my help come?
Do you know why we lifted our eyes to the hills or the mountains?
We look to the hills as a testimony to so many of our people who were tempted to worship other gods. In our time, over 2,500 years ago, people worshiped many gods. One of them was Baal, the storm god, the one believed to give rain and make the earth fertile for growing crops. Baal was worshipped on top of hills. So, too, many of our people had lifted their eyes to the hills as a way of praying to Baal and asking for his help.
When we sang of lifting our eyes to the hills, we were asking, does our help come from Baal, who so many worship on these hills?
And the answer was, of course not. Our help comes not from some false god worshipped on the hills, but from the one who made the hills and the whole heaven and earth.
Psalm 121 reminded us that the one who watched over us on the journey was the creator of all that is. That reassured us. For if our God had such power to create the mighty mountains, then surely God could protect and provide for us.
And the same is true for you. We also lifted our eyes to the hills in the distance because they held many dangers for travelers. Often bandits and beasts were hidden there. Bandits especially lived in mountain caves, and they knew the times during the year when pilgrims would be traveling to Jerusalem.
My grandfather told me about how on one journey, bandits attacked them but were driven off because they had been alerted beforehand. You see, we would often have sentries, lookouts, up on the hillsides at night to watch over our camp and give us warning. So literally, we would often lift our eyes to the hills to look at the sentries to see if all was well.
But this song reminded us not just to look at our sentries on the hills, but with the eye of faith to see another one standing beside them, a far greater sentry and protector, God.
We also lifted our eyes to the hills around Jerusalem, especially Mount Zion, on which rested our destination, the temple, the house of the Lord, where God's presence was powerfully made known to his people.
Surely you must know that feeling, anticipation, hardly waiting to get that first glimpse of your destination. That is how we felt. For what we traveled for and longed to see above all else was the sacred hill of Zion. For we knew that the one worshipped there was the source of all our help.
And we sang.
He will not let your foot be moved.
Do you know what this means?
I have noticed the paths you have here. They are wide and made of a black, hard surface. And you have these strange horseless chariots made of metal that you get inside and ride along these paths. We had nothing like them in my time. We had only rough dirt trails, which were either very dusty or muddy most of the time. Most of us could not afford a donkey or a horse to ride.
We had to walk. And often the paths, especially in the mountains, were steep, narrow, and rocky. Many times I remember walking along and stepping on rocks that gave way and fell down the sides of the mountain.
As a child, my mother grabbed me once when this happened as I lost my balance. I would have fallen too.
So when we sing this song of trust that God will not let our foot be moved, it reminds us that God is with us each step of the way to keep us from slipping on those rocks and falling.
The song continues. He who keeps you will not slumber. He who keeps Israel will neither slumber nor sleep. Have you ever tried to stay up all night? I see some of you have children, so of course you know what that's like.
Children haven't changed that much over the centuries, but it's not easy to stay awake. We get tired. So one of our fears was that we would be attacked at night while we were sleeping.
Yes, we set sentries on the hill to keep watch, but guess what happened to them some nights after a long walk? That's right, they fell asleep.
Yes, we set sentries on the hills to keep watch, but guess what happened? Oh yeah. But this song reminds us that God is a sentry, a guard who never sleeps. God doesn't even take a nap. That means God's awake, always awake, watching over us, watching us even when we're asleep.
This part of the song is also a testimony against Baal. Since we seldom had much rain in the summer, worshippers of Baal thought Baal slept during the summer. If your God is asleep, is he available to help you when you're in need? Our song declares this is not so with our God, the true God. God never sleeps. God's always awake and ready to respond when we cry out in need.
The song continues.
The Lord is your keeper. The Lord is your shade at your right hand. The sun shall not strike you by day, nor the moon by night.
In the horseless chariots you ride, I have felt this cool air streaming out. I wish we had such things in our day, for one of the hardest parts of the journey was the sun.
I remember once taking the pilgrimage, and it was very hot. My grandmother fell over. She was very pale, and I thought she had died. My father and grandfather took her over to the shade under a cliff. We gave her water and rested a few hours, and she was able to continue. My father told me that it was the sun which had taken her energy. And I remember that very trip saying to my father, "This will not happen to me, will it? For I am very hot." My father said, "No, not if you walk in my shadow." And so I did, for his shadow gave me shade.
You see now what the song was telling us?
That God, like a loving parent, will provide shade, protection for us from the sun, from all that would harm us from nature. Just as God has seen us through the wilderness long ago, provided us water and food, so now God would protect and provide for us, and God has not changed. The same is true for each of you as you journey.
But what of the moon, you ask?
In our time, many people feared the moon, believing that its light could harm you just as sunlight could. You might think this foolishness, but I believe you use the word lunatic today, which comes from the word luna, which means moon. So a lunatic is one driven mad by the light of the moon. Even, you see, in your own day, people still believe the moonlight can harm you.
But it was more than this. When are you in the moonlight? That's right, at night. So our song was not just about any power we thought the moon had, but of all the scary things that the night held as we journeyed. It was not uncommon for thieves to attack us at night, and we, like you, imagined many things that go wrong in the night.
This song reminds us not to fear sunlight or moonlight, dangers by day or by night, for the one who made the sun and the moon is watching over us. And this one watches over you too.
The song continues.
The Lord will keep you from all evil. He will keep your life. The Lord will keep your going out and your coming in from this time on and forevermore.
We sang this song as we made the pilgrimage to Jerusalem to comfort and encourage us about all the dangers of that journey. But the song ends by reminding us that God is always with us, not just on this one journey, but on all our journeys. Each time we leave our home and return, God is with us.
Now we had a very special way of reminding us that God is always with us. It's called a mezuzah. It was a box or cylinder made of metal or wood that we had by our doorway. Inside we had pieces of paper on which were written various scriptures like the Shema. Hear, O Israel, the Lord is our God, the Lord alone. You shall love the Lord your God with all your heart, with all your soul, and with all your might.
Each time we leave or enter our house, we place our hands on the mezuzah and repeat verse 8 of this psalm.
The Lord will protect you from all danger. He will keep you safe. He will protect you as you come and go, now and forever.
Repeat that after us.
The Lord will protect you from all danger.
The Lord will protect you from all danger.
He will keep you safe.
He will keep you safe.
Forever.
Now and forever.
It is true that the world in which we journey can be a scary place.
Ours was, and yours is no different.
But when you are afraid on your journey, remember these words.
Sing them as you leave,
Sing them as you journey.
sing them as you return. And
Let them remind you that the one who created all that is, loves you, is with you, and watches over you always. So journey in peace and without fear, assured God's journeying mercies. Shalom.